Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate that as we are preparing for what we know is Hurricane Zeta, expected to make landfall, seeing signs of that as early as 2 p.m. this afternoon, with the expectancy to start to feel the wind forces coming our way, and of course getting stronger between that 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. mark, with the expectation it's coming fast, it's coming strong, and hopefully out of our way in between, moving out 9 p.m., 11 p.m. towards, of course, this evening. And so with that, I am joined by my Director of Homeland Security, Colin Arnold, Deputy CEO of Infrastructure, Ramsey Green, Dr. Jennifer Vegno, as you know, is our Director of Health for the City of New Orleans. Also joined by Gassan Corbin, who is our CEO, Executive Director of the Sewage and Water Board. Not stopping there, have our leadership partner, Sandra Miller, representing Entergy New Orleans. Also, I have my Director of the Orleans Parish Communications District, Director Tyrell Morris, who will talk to us about 311, 911, other things as we move through this press conference. Also, my fierce leader, Colonel Everett, who is with us as our Director of Public Safety and Homeland Security, again, for the City of New Orleans. As I mentioned, Hurricane Zeta is on our way. We will be closing City Hall. Employees will be dismissed, early dismissal, 12 noon, so they can move forward, get to their places of living quarters so they can hunker down. This is not a drill. We've had many of them. It's not a drill. We do expect directly impacting the City of New Orleans. There is confidence all around that aspect. Therefore, we are prepared, and we're wanting to ensure that residents heed the warnings, make sure that you are prepared, and be ready to be off of the streets. And I will encourage you by 2 p.m. this afternoon. Zeta is currently moving in as a Category 1, but again, expected to strengthen potentially as a Category 2 as it passes through our area. As I mentioned earlier, the storm is moving fast. The most significant threat to us continues to be that wind, and that's absolutely why we have Entergy here with us this morning. Tropical force winds, as I mentioned, expected to start feeling them around 2 p.m. We will still see heavy rains, and earlier this in the afternoon, again around that 2 p.m., but moving into 5. Heavy rains continues again to be an issue for us, but wind, the greatest threat, as I understand. The rainfall still in that area between 2 to 4 inches of rain to be expected. Gassan will give you more information on Sewage and Water Board and how we are prepared and have been proactive in that regard as it relates to redundancy and power. City Hall employees, as I mentioned, dismissal 12 noon, and now is the time to prepare to get off the road. With wind coming our way, make sure that you have, brought in your garbage cans, that you have, gotten all in things on the front of your house, the back of your home that could potentially fly away. You'll hear more about the work that we have done on the ground as it relates to construction sites and the like across the City of New Orleans. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Colin Arnold to give you more, and we'll move through briefings as you all know that we do. So thank you again, and Colin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Mayor's covered it quite well. I would just say, obviously, the forecast overnight and into this morning has, I would say, ratcheted up a notch, where we were looking at a tropical storm to potentially a Category 1 hurricane making landfall on the coast of Louisiana this afternoon. We're now looking at a 1, potentially a 2, making landfall. And every indication, as we've seen, we all see that the cone of uncertainty starts off real big, 2-3 states, and if you're looking at that cone of uncertainty as of the 10 a.m., it's laser focused on our area, and people need to know that despite 6 times where we were able to prepare for this and we were missed, that this time we've prepared and we are going to get impacts from this. This evening, you're going to see sustained tropical storm winds. I'm talking 40, 50 mile an hour winds sustained for multiple hours. And you're going to see damaging, potentially life-threatening winds of 80 to 90 to 95 miles an hour, those gusts during that time period. And I think it's very important. Look, it's moving fast. 20 to 30 miles an hour, this is like a front coming through here. It's going to be very fast. But what I would like to reiterate is that as fast as it's going to leave us is as fast as it's going to come to us. So by 2 p.m. today, you need to be off the streets. You need to be not in your vehicle. You need to be not driving. You need to be by 2 p.m. at the latest where you are going to ride this out for several hours and where you're going to be safe. Okay, so those last minute preparations, they need to be done now because we've seen you over the past few days, and look, we've been doing this all season. This is the 7th time. We really appreciate the residents paying attention. I hope you know that we have paid attention. We are paying attention upstairs right now. EOC has been activated since 7 o'clock this morning. We will be here until this is over. But speaking about this being over, something we haven't had to discuss this year is expectations, okay? There are going to be impacts here, especially from wind. There's going to be power outages. There's going to be down trees. There's going to be down limbs. There's going to be dangers out there in the street after this is over. And these things will not be resolved overnight, and they're not going to be resolved in a day. So we need people to pay attention. Tyrell will talk about the use of 911 and 311. Please, I encourage everyone to heed his message about reporting down trees, down power lines, down limbs. Sandra's going to talk about the energy response to this, which will be robust. It will be very strong. But we just need to set that expectation that although this will move through very quickly, it won't be over. We will have a post-storm component to this that we will have to address. So with that, I will say one more time. By 2 p.m. today, please, everyone, at the sound of my voice, everyone please be off the roads and be where you need to be safe for this storm. It's going to be quick, but it's going to be brutal. So these winds are damaging and potentially life-threatening. Right now, I'll turn it over to Ramsey Green, who's our Deputy CEO of Infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you so much, Colin. On the infrastructure front for our city, at this moment we have 6 vacuum trucks. That's our whole battery of available vacuum trucks going on to reported catch basins, cleaning them out. We have 4 asphalt crews added to those catch basin crews to get all of our drainage, small lines, as much as possible in particularly vulnerable areas cleaned out. Please call 311 if you see pooling, dramatic pooling that isn't going away as we move into the post-storm environment, and let our team know. All job sites, all city job sites are going quiet today at noon. So that's all of our joint infrastructure projects, that's all of our vertical construction projects, and that includes the Canal Street site. That work is going to stop at least until tomorrow, potentially starting back up late tomorrow or Friday. Trash collection happened today. It's continuing to go on. Bring your cans in the moment your trash is collected, or shortly to whenever you get home. Get those cans in as quickly as possible. Check on your neighbors. If they've got a can sitting out there, text them, say, hey, do you need me to do it? I did that with both of my neighbors this morning to make sure that we don't have our catch basins filled up with debris from those cans getting toppled over. Tomorrow, we will have trash collection. It's going to start a little late. It's going to start after 8 a.m. So go ahead and put your cans out once we're past this event, later tonight or early tomorrow morning. Political campaign season is upon us. We have signs everywhere. If you have a political, a campaign sign in front of your house, please bring it in for this event so it doesn't blow down the street, block a catch basin, hit somebody's house, something like that. But just bring it in for the night, bring it back out as soon as we're past the winds. We have our preliminary damage assessment teams at the ready. The moment this thing is done, we'll go assess our infrastructure, our job sites, and then that is where we're sort of mentally going right now, is what happens after this. Call 311 again to report any felled down trees. Our trees grow through our power lines, that's okay, but report if you see a branch falling or a felled branch. Our entire forestry crew is sleeping through the night at the Parkways office, and they are out working today. We have RTA. All RTA operations will be done today at 1. They're finishing their routes. The ferries did not operate today due to obviously the inclement weather. Buses and streetcars are ceasing operations by 1 today. Notifications did go out again to everybody with an open building permit within the city. If you have a job site, if you're renovating your house, if you're a builder, go to your job site. If you haven't already, do it quickly and make sure it's buttoned up. Planters hanging from the balcony of your house, bring everything in. The better we do this now before the storm, the less we have to deal with it in a much worse case after the storm. City vehicles have been secured, and that operation continues. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're working closely to assist the Registrar of Voters for operations as we move forward toward Tuesday of next week. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor. I think after me is Tyrell. I'll give it to you. I don't have the agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramsey. Director Morris?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ramsey. So I'll start with the life safety stuff first. Of course, 911 is reserved for life-threatening emergencies only. The agency will go to level 2 staffing at 1 o'clock today, meaning the amount of call takers and dispatchers will increase by 50%. That team will remain in place until the winds have gotten to a place where we can safely do the change of shift. Normally shift change happens at 7 o'clock, but today we're going to play it by ear. Once the winds get to a certain speed, then I will ask the incoming crew to stay home until they get the all clear to come into the city. All of our staff are traveling from large distances, so we don't want them. It may be okay where they're at now, but we don't want them entering the city. Speaking of high winds, if the forecast holds true, we are expecting there to be a place that our public safety units will not be able to respond to 911 calls. The phone will still be answered. We still will take the call and get into the system. But if sustained winds get to a certain point where it's unsafe for a fire truck or an ambulance to respond, we will not be able to do so. So it is critically important to be at a safe place by 2 o'clock, because we don't want to be on the other end of this. We're having to have a search and rescue operation, which ultimately could mean the loss of life and serious injury to you or our first responders. So if you call 911 and those winds are at that point, we will tell you this is where we are, and we will get a unit to you as soon as the winds make it safe to do so. On 311, please call 311 to report a downed tree on the public right-of-way. That way we'll get Parks and Parkway and get it prioritized. Down tree across a roadway or just down on the sidewalk is one thing. If a down tree falls on a home, if a power line falls on a home, please dial 911. Our immediate priority is search and rescue to ensure that no one is trapped inside that home or that the power line is not causing a fire threat to the property. So 2 different things. When you call 311, you'll get a prompt that says this is a public safety incident, press 1. That will get you to the top of the queue, as opposed to someone reporting, hey, I need to order extra large pickup for items. Again, Ramsey gave the information about trash. If you need to make a request at 311, you can do it many ways. You can do it online at nola.gov/311. You can call 311. If you live in Orleans Parish, you can dial 311. And again, 911 is available for life-threatening emergencies only. After the storm comes up, is past us, we will provide you some additional guidance on how to request debris removal or assistance with removing debris from your personal property. If you have not signed up for the NOLA Ready alerts that Director Arnold mentioned, please do so, because that is the way we will communicate information to the public. Again, thank you, and we'll get through this together.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have Dr. Jennifer Begno, and we'll be followed by Hassan and Sandra.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate a lot of the things I said yesterday. Certainly the health of all of our residents is the top priority. If you have special medical needs, electricity dependent, for example, and you have not yet taken advantage of all the activations before now to sign up for the special needs registry, we have a 24/7 call center that's been activated since yesterday. You can go through 311 or go to ready.nola.gov to sign up. Please let us know who you are and where you are. In the event of a prolonged, widespread power outages that would make it difficult for some of our medical special needs patients to be able to sustain the life-saving devices that they need, we do have a contingency plan in place to support them. And so we are going to be very closely watching and waiting. We've got all of our partners available to do that. So should that become necessary, we will mobilize. Again, if you are hunkering down with those outside your immediate household, please remember COVID is still here. Distance and wear a mask even within your home. The way we see spread all over the country now is from small, intimate gatherings. We do not want to survive a hurricane only to have a COVID spike in a week or two. So again, if you're taking in neighbors, extra family that you don't normally live with, friends, because you have the more secure location, please make sure you are continuing to follow all of the distancing and masking guidelines. And again, if we do have power outages and you have a generator, please make sure that you are abiding by all of the safety regulations. We can't stress that enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vecno. We'll hear from Design Corbin with Sewage and Water Board, and he'll be followed by Ms. Sandra Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Our pumping and power status remains the same as yesterday, but worth repeating, all of our 99 pumps are working and are available. In terms of power, we have turbine 1, 3, T6, and all of our frequency changers are available, as well as 5 EMDs. The key today is focusing on frequency changers. And frequency changers are basically adapters. And why it's important today to talk about that is because of T4 being down, we're relying on frequency changers to provide power. And the power that goes through the frequency changers come from Entergy. And with the higher expectations of higher wind speeds today or later this evening, expectations of maybe possible outages are higher. So we're trying to forecast that, and we have a lot of contingency plans in place to compensate for that. Now, just for our residents, what the connection between Entergy and our frequency changer is basically an overhead wire. That's why they're more susceptible and more vulnerable tonight. So part of our plan is to rely on T6, which is the newest and more advanced turbine. It typically doesn't get utilized to its maximum capacity, which is about 15 megawatts. So we preemptively moved some of Entergy power and other steam generated power that typically powers some of our drinking water and raw water intake pumps. We moved that and we put it on T6 kind of preemptively to free up some of the 25 hertz capacity generation and just put it toward drainage pumps. And to minimize the impact of potential outages because of Entergy. So that's a very preemptive plan. We also have allocated a specific amount of wattages that come from T6, again, to compensate for potential outages associated with any downlines or what have you. Furthermore, we have our own overhead wires that feed some of our pumps, and those are vulnerable as well, and we're keeping an eye, and we have contingency plans associated with that. This is going to be a very fast-moving event, as predicted. We're not as concerned about the amount of rain, about half an inch of an inch an hour. We can manage that. We have enough power, we have enough pumping capacity to do that. Should things change, forecast is a little off, the storm lingers over the city, we have the higher intensity of rain, 2 inches, 3 inches an hour, no amount of power or pumping will manage that, and we will have flooding. So if there's a flood, does not always mean that we're not pumping within our capacity. There's that distinction. We will update you with any changes that we may have. Things will happen. This is fast moving. The wind is a very major concern. We're going to be responsive. We have optimized our staffing. I said yesterday we'll have electricians, mechanics, operators. Every expertise we have will be on staff in order to respond to any situation we may face. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gassan. And Ms. Sandra, we'll hear from you, Entergy, New Orleans.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone. I want to say I think Director Collins said it, Director Arnold said it best. Our response will be robust and it will be strong. We are prepared to respond to the impacts of Hurricane Zeta, and we've assembled up to 4,800 and growing mutual aid resources to assist with restoration. We do anticipate power outages from this storm, and we know you all have heeded the call to be prepared, and we're prepared also. And we will send crews into the field to provide restoration as soon as it is safe to do so. So I want to talk to you a bit about how we will go about the restoration process. So following the storm, we will deploy scouts to assess damage. Essential services such as hospitals, nursing homes, fire and police departments, and water systems are at the head of the restoration list, along with equipment that supplies electricity to large numbers of customers. We'll then concentrate our resources on getting the greatest number of customers back on the fastest. As a reminder, I wanted to let you all know that we can't use our bucket trucks until sustained winds are less than 30 miles per hour. But we still can start restoration service to customers by closing circuit breakers, rerouting power, and other actions. You may see trucks, other vehicles, and workers lined up while we process them into our system, taking inventory of equipment and personnel, and giving complete safety orientation. Repairs begin with the major lines to substations, and then the lines and equipment serving neighborhoods, businesses, and homes. Significant flooding and other accessibility challenges due to the storm will affect our ability to reach some areas of our territory and could delay restoration in those communities. When restoration starts, keep in mind that if you don't see us working near you, we may be working in another part of the electrical system that you can't see, but must be repaired to get power to you. So when restoration begins, customers may experience delays when calling our telephone centers, and typically customers will call and report outages to 1-800-9-OUTAGE. But there could be a high volume of callers, so we encourage customers to use other means to interact with us during the restoration. They can download our free app for your smartphone at entergy.com/app. They can sign up for text alerts by texting REG to 36778, and that REG to 36778 will allow them to register to receive text alerts. And once you're registered, you can text OUT to 36778 to report an outage. We're also asking you to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and you can follow us with updates with the local news, media, radio, television, and newspapers. So we want you all to stay safe as we restore service power to all the areas that are impacted by Hurricane Zeta. There's no way to know if a down line is energized or not. So if you see one, keep your distance and call 1-800-ENTERGY. Stay safe and away from down lines and flooded areas. Do not walk in standing water, and do not venture into areas of debris, since energized and dangerous power lines may not be visible. And as Dr. Vegno mentioned, we want to make sure we're exercising safety as pertains to generators. Customers choosing to use a portable electric generator should do so in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Customers should never connect a generator directly to a building's wiring without a licensed electrician disconnecting the house wiring from Entergy service. Otherwise, it can create a safety hazard for the customer and for our linemen while working to restore power, and it may damage the generator or the house wiring. Finally, top of mind for all of us is our close communication and coordination with Sewage and Water Board during and following this storm event. We are aware of the issue with Turbine 4, and we have proactively inspected those feeders and lines and poles supporting that facility, and we will keep a close eye on those facilities throughout the storm We've worked with the Sewage and Water Board, as you heard Director Kazan say, understanding their contingency plan on their side should there be impacts to our system as a result of Hurricane Zeta. We're closely keeping an eye throughout the event on stations 1, 6, and 7, which we know service their critical facilities. We've activated our local command center, and we will have crews at that location. A crew there will remain throughout the day and overnight to begin scouting and some restoration as we move more crews into the area to assist with restoration. That crew will stay in close communication with Sewage and Water Board during the day, throughout the night, so we can make sure that we're working in close coordination to get this city restored as soon as possible. And that's all I have here.
Thank you very much, Sandra, and extremely thorough. I appreciate that. Colonel Abbott, anything to add?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add a couple things. One, we've been before you 6 times, the number of individual opportunities, and you have seen and must understand the professionalism of these agencies and their coordination with every regional, state, and federal agency sitting up today on the 9th floor of this building. We've done a great job in training our people, equipping our agencies, and planning for such an event as we're going to have today. But we do need to reiterate that it's a team effort. The media is a tremendous part of our effort, getting the word to individuals out across the city and state, and we look forward to continue to work with you. We understand our mission, and it's very simple. You've heard me say it before. It's to save lives, stabilize infrastructure, and provide security. We're going to do that with your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel, and all of the leadership who is with me this morning. Thank you so much. You should know that absolutely I've been in direct communication with Governor John Bell Edwards. I also expect by tomorrow afternoon, possibly into the evening, Administrator Gaynor of FEMA is expected to be on the ground here in New Orleans at that time as well. Of course, as the Colonel mentioned, our Unified Command up in EOC, as Colin referenced, started and opened at 7 a.m. This morning. They'll be planted there throughout this event. So again, now is the time. Get to where you're going to be, that safe place by 2 p.m. Stay off the roads. Make sure that you secure any belongings on your property, front and back. Ramsey mentioned political yard signs. Absolutely, they can fly. They can block catch basins and the like. And so just do what you know to do. Look out for yourself, your family members, your neighbors, and we're in this together. And so with that, Ms. Latanya, I'll take any questions that come our way.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The lens?
A couple quick questions. The first one for Entergy. I'd seen a resident on social media this morning posted an email notification regarding a planned outage. I'm wondering if planned outages went forward this morning, whether there are any more in the city for the rest of the day.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address that. That was in fact canceled, and there should have been notification that went out to customers notifying them that all planned outages were canceled ahead of Hurricane Zeta's landfall, and so we're not going to proceed forward with any of those planned outages while we're in the restoration stage until we get past this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And then for Mr. Morris, you said that there was a threshold, a wind threshold at which you could not send out first responders. What is that threshold?
Usually, we different type of vehicle types, but in most cases, it's about 50 miles an hour. When we have sustained winds at 50 miles an hour, for example, our ambulances cannot safely travel on the streets. And so, of course, we can't time medical emergencies, but we can help prevent them if you're home and not out on the street. So help us help you and follow the heat of the warning. But 50 miles an hour is traditionally the threshold where it becomes unsafe for those large vehicles such as an ambulance or a fire truck. Now look, we will be as creative as possible. Maybe we can send you a Sprint or an SUV if the condition allows it to happen. But in most cases, the message from a public safety perspective is once 50 miles an hour sustained winds come, it potentially could alter the response.
Thank you. And for Mayor Cantrell, Are city employees being compensated for this afternoon of work, or is this gonna be an unpaid afternoon off of work?
Our employees get paid for the work that they deliver on behalf of the residents of the city of New Orleans. So with every emergency, which we're in, preparedness in terms of pre and post, our employees will continue to earn their wage based on the services that they render to the city.
Okay, so, but not for this afternoon when they'll be home?
They are paid for the services that they render to the city of New Orleans. Early dismissal is early dismissal, okay, but they're paid for the services rendered to the city.
WDSU.
Nothing's different in this event than all of the past.
It's a question for Entergy. I know there's a crystal ball, but it looks like this could be more of a wind event than a rain event. We haven't dealt with one of those in a long time. And in the past, not to go back to the past, but for storms like Cindy or Isaac, there were a lot of issues about getting people's power back on. It took days in some cases. What can you tell people watching this if we do have power outages? Is there, I know everybody wants it on as soon as possible, but is there a realistic time frame if we have massive power outages that you guys can work to get the power back on?
So thank you for that question. And I can tell you that based on historical experiences, there is some extended outages that could occur for a tropical storm, a category 1, a category 2. And that breakdown, I think we sent some customer messaging. Most customers have received that to understand that for tropical storm, there could be outages up to 3 to 5 days. But we do expect to have 90% of those customers restored within that time period. For category 1, it could be up to 7 days. But again, we do expect to have 90% of the customers restored in that time period based on our learnings over the years, going back to Isaac, Cindy. Based on our learnings, we believe that we will be able to restore power even quicker than some of those time frames have allotted.
And then this is one more quick question. It's probably for the mayor or Colin. It would be for Chief Ferguson, but I know he's probably busy. A lot of these storms, last night the lakefront was packed. I know that you're telling people to go in at 2 o'clock, but they always have the people that like to go out and just sightsee and watch. Are you gonna try to enforce that? Will police try to tell them to get off the streets? Because this could be one, as you mentioned, that's more serious than some of the other ones we've had this summer.
Sure, and areas around Lakeshore Drive and the like are going to be closed. We will continue to, push out information to residents to do the right thing, and for them to not go and be a spectator. Danger, right, is coming our way as it relates to potential impacts to the city of New Orleans. But we're watching. NOPD and other law enforcement agencies will be out and enforcing the guidelines that we do have in place. And right now, it's getting people to do the right thing. Colin, you want to add to that?
I would just say, in addition, because I talked about the expectations about us having to deal with a post-storm, immediate recovery as well. What's critical that we manage from the EOC is that our fire department and police department both get out and do what we call windshield surveys or rapid damage assessments right away post-storm. I would add the fire department goes and checks, for structure collapses, down trees, critical intersections and traffic routes through the city to make sure that we can get those cleared and addressed as soon as possible. The police focus more on the security aspect of that. They go look for businesses that might be compromised, windows broken, doors broken, and then just looting, potentially any kind of disorder as far as the power being out and things like that. So that's a whole process that happens after the storm moves through as well.
And with the priority of really focusing on pharmacies in the community as well.
WGNO.
That was pretty much where I was going with, we haven't done an evacuation or anything mandatory, but is the 2 p.m. in order? Is it something that we're gonna be
What do you
policing?
mean? We're behind the 8 ball in regards to that,
Right.
just when we learned about the storm.
No, I understand
Okay.
that. No. I was following up on what Travis was saying. That was pretty much my question as to whether or not the 2 p.m. that both you and Colin mentioned was something that was gonna be monitored by police to get people off the road.
Oh,
You
it's
addressed it.
Oh, I understand, and thank you for the clarification, because I heard you wrong, so I appreciate that, it's my fault. But in regards, that's exactly why we are stressing getting off the street by 2 p.m. Yes, we're encouraging that, law enforcement, all of our partners are doing that encouragement, and wanting people to listen and really follow the instructions that we have outlined, and do the right thing.
The advocate.
Thank you.
Just a question, in regards to health, you mentioned that FEMA, will come down, pretty soon. Have you heard anything as far as support should be needed in terms of power outages or any of the other impacts that you're anticipating from this storm, from the state or from some of our other partners?
Well, Colin can speak to that as well, but in terms of a unified command being planted even in our EOC is for that reason, so that we can leverage all of our assets and meet the needs of all of our residents as well as visitors who are here. As it relates to FEMA, that is a part of the plan as we have shifted to post-disaster. So hearing from Administrator Gaynor earlier this morning saying, hey, he will be here on the ground in Orleans Parish is because of the post-storm, boots on the ground assessments that we definitely want to have occur.
WWL?
Could you highlight the difference, please, for the viewers, and when, specifically when you call 911, when you call 311, please, so there's not confusion?
Sure. Non-emergencies, tree limbs down, unless it's on a home, 311. If it's on a home or any emergencies, 911. Director Morris, let's get it straight.
Absolutely. So a life-threatening emergency is anything that has an immediate threat to life or property. Fire, an unconscious person needing an ambulance, or a law enforcement incident. I think the public has a really good expectation or understanding of what, when we say life-threatening is. Now, we do have other public safety incidents that are not licensed sirens emergencies, and 311 can be your option for that as well. Just press 1 when the answer is asked you the question, is it public safety related? But 911, it needs to be reserved for those individuals that need immediate intervention to protect life and property. Street flooding as well is considered a life-threatening emergency because we get that information in real time to our partners to help protect the public from any further danger. So if you see street flooding, that is indeed a life-threatening emergency. So dial 911 for that.
Telemundo? WWNO? Is anything, we're 7 days away from a presidential election, is anything impacted here? I know early voting ended yesterday and that you guys didn't do the drop-off ballots, but is anything, this is probably more of a Secretary of State type question, but is
Well, you're asking the mayor of New
I'm
Orleans.
asking you though, you can speak for him here.
Okay, so what,
is anything impacted from a machine standpoint, a voting standpoint, an early voting standpoint? I mean, obviously, I think all eyes are on the storm, but tomorrow we're probably going to shift right back to election season. Is anything impacted by this storm, in your opinion?
Well, one of the things, we're also thinking proactively as well. We have reached out to the registrar, of course, in terms of Secretary of State, but more importantly, the clerk of criminal court, who manages, as you know, the elections in the city. A part of the outreach this morning was thinking about an alternative should we be impacted by power outages well into next week. We don't know, but again, we need to be proactive. Some preliminary steps in terms of those conversations have been made, but really looking at the Smoothie King Center potentially, us going back there, should we have to close or not activate polling locations throughout the city of New Orleans. So although we're not the Secretary of State, we have taken on the responsibility of the outreach, the coordination, communication, so that the city of New Orleans, our residents, can continue to turn out in strong numbers. Over 90,000 people voted early in this city, unprecedented. And so we want to keep those lines and the accessibility right there for our folks to exercise their right and, of course, let their voices be heard.
You ready for hurricane season to be over with?
Oh man, I'm ready for a lot of things to be over with, so don't get me going on that. But the most important thing I don't want to be over is the civic trust that has been demonstrated by our residents, our people's ability to adhere to the warning calls, prepare themselves, and we can do it better, and we do it better than no one else. So I'm proud to be a part of this team, second to none. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.